guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife review. So if you watched the Spyderco Emphasis review yesterday, you kind of knew this was coming. What we have here is the Spyderco Insistence. This is the smallest of the efficient family of knives, which are sort of, alternate, maybe more interesting design alternatives to the Tenacious lineup of budget Spydercos. I think they basically cost around the same price. I think Tenacious these days is about $50. The Efficient is probably around $50 as well. This guy being a little smaller comes in at like $42, which is, not out of line for a budget Spyderco. It's about what we would expect to see here. And I will say this is one of those kind of cute knives. Spyderco has a bunch of these knives that I would call like kind of on, almost cute. All right. I don't know what a better term would be for it. But things like the Dodo and even to a certain degree, the Sage, this knife, I think the Spyderco Ambitious is like the small version of the Tenacious. So Spyderco likes to do these smaller knives. There's obviously all the ones in the Bug family of knives. And this is another one. It happens to be the smallest version of, as I mentioned, the Efficient series there. Usually I don't pay much attention to smaller knives, but getting this was kind of a happy accident. So I'd actually asked Justin to send out a Spyderco Emphasis, and he sent this instead, which is an honest mistake. They're from the same family. They're fairly similar in terms of design, and he probably just mentally associated them. But when I got it, I was like, you know what? This isn't so bad. I carried it. I used it. I checked it out a little bit. I gave you guys the first impressions. And, while I'm still not going to be converted and start using nothing but small knives all the time, I don't hate this, okay? So if a small knife can win me over, I'm definitely a big knife fan, then that says something, I think. So let's, thinking of small knife, this is just a little over 6 inches, almost 6 1/8, but not quite there. 2.5 inches on the blade length, 3 3/4 closed. Okay, so that's this dimension here. 2 5/8 on the grip area if you just have your fingers back here, which I never do. It's a 3-finger knife back there. But because of this generous finger choil, this is how I always grip the knife. And in this grip, it's very, very nice and offers a pretty compelling option for a small knife that you can actually get some work done with. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, one thing I do have to say here is for a knife of this size, it's only 6 inches long. This thing weighs in at 4 ounces, which is pretty hefty, largely again due to the full back spacer. If these were standoffs, that would probably cut some weight here. I don't know. I'm not really going to complain about 4 ounces. Yes, it's heavy for its size, but it's not heavy really when it comes to carrying something in your pocket. You really don't notice this knife there, so can't complain too much. Let's take a look at the blade. So the blade on this guy is going to be a full flat ground leaf shape 8CR13 MOV blade with a nice satin finish on it, very much like the blade shape on the Emphasis that we looked at yesterday. Now, the one thing that I have to say is a smaller knife, because of its small size, restricts the usage in some ways. So there's certain things that you just don't have enough blade length for, but for the things you do have enough blade length for, this works just fine. Now you can see there's a little bit of a recurve that's developed there. That'll come out with a couple of quick sharpenings. I just pay a little more attention to the back here and that would go away. But I haven't actually had to sharpen it yet. I've used it a fair bit. I did the same thing with the Emphasis. I carried it in purposely. Now, I will say I carry this as a secondary knife, so I'd have something else with me, but I went out of my way to use it more than I normally would use a secondary knife, just to see how that blade steel was going to hold up. And as I've often said, if it's just an EDC knife that you're going to pull out a couple of times a day, to open a package or peel an apple, 8CR13 is fine. Now, yes, I know there are some users out there who use their knives a ton every single day, and because of that, wear the edges off a little quicker. And in that case, yeah, then maybe you'd want to avoid 8CR13 MOV. But for most people, you can probably go a week or two without sharpening this, and that's plenty. As long as a knife even lasts 1 or 2 full days at work, that's going to be enough. So anyway, that's my take on 8CR13 MOV. Is it my favorite steel? No. Would I like to see, I don't know, any number of different things other than this? D2, 8CR, 9CR 18, 14C28N, yes, all of the above. Even BD1, like they do on the Raven, would be a great option. But here we are with HCR13, and that doesn't mean the knife is total garbage. It's just that there are some better options out there that I would have liked to see. So we have a liner lock here, and it's a fairly solid, heavy-duty liner lock, actually quite thick. Same dimensions as we had on the Emphasis from yesterday. I don't know why that just wouldn't, click for me there. But very solid lockup, no blade play of any kind. It feels, and this is something I definitely notice about Spydercos, they do tend to click really nicely and feel pretty solid. Even their budget stuff has pretty decent fit and finish, and I don't really have any complaints about that. Now, the one thing I will say, we'll get to that in a minute. Let me just demonstrate for you. I can Spidey flick this guy out. I don't know that I can thumb flick it. Yeah, no, I'm going to be rolling this out if I'm opening it. It is on washers, and it's not really, again, I said this before, but this is not a fidgety knife. It's just functional, okay? And as a functional solid lock, I have no issue whatsoever. It's comfortable. It's easy to use. I have no issue with lockup and deployment on this. It's not something that I, just get great joy out of the smoothness and all of that you would experience with a higher end knife, but it's definitely good. Moving over to the handle, this is where we've got a couple of interesting things going on. The main one being the pocket clip. So the wire clip here does work really well, and I would like to see the wire clip on a lot more Spydercos. I don't know if you can hear that little shaking. You may or may not be able to. Probably you can't. What I will say is this. This tubed lanyard hole, the tube is just a little loose. So what I may do is get like a punch and just pound it in there to just stretch it a little bit and tighten it up. But I didn't want to do that until after this video because I wanted to show in the review. Now, that's likely a one-off example. So sometimes I even hesitate to say, when there's one little fit and finish issue and, I haven't seen anybody else complain about it, I question whether or not it's legitimate to bring that stuff up. But I figure you're here, you're listening, so I should let you know that at least on mine, the lanyard tube is a little bit loose. I haven't heard that that's a problem with any of the others, so I'm not going to even suggest that you may have problems with it. But on mine, there's a little bit of wiggle in that lanyard tube. Otherwise, for a small knife, I like this handle quite a bit. It's very hand-filling. Now, in this grip, I just don't use it. Okay, I can't stand that pinky floating out in space. I've got to choke up on this. And that's one of the things that puts me off all small knives. As soon as I feel this, I'm just like, nope, pass. So being able to move up onto the finger choil, this is actually quite hand-filling and feels quite good. If you're doing a bunch of work cutting, this is very, very adequate. Of course, the only issue is that length that we've talked about before. But in terms of ergonomics, yeah, this is a knife that I can definitely get some stuff done with. No question about it. All right, so what about some comparisons? Now, I don't have a lot of knives in this size range. A smaller knife for me is the Bird Raven 2, and it's quite a bit bigger. The other knife that I would have that you guys have seen a couple of times already is the Civivi Elementum, and even it is a fair bit bigger. And this knife is definitely too small for me already, so this knife is much too small. But there are some nice little Civivis out there that would compare well. I think the Durus would be another one that I would kind of consider comparable to this guy. In conclusion, what is my overall thought? Well, yeah, this is a small knife, but it's well put together. It's about what I would expect from a budget Spyderco. One little issue there that I mentioned, but not anything, a couple little issues that we talked about, but nothing major. If you like the look of this and this feels like something you want to own and use and carry, I think it's a good knife. I wouldn't steer you away from it at all. There are certainly some other options out there that you'd want to consider, and frankly, that's true of every budget knife. The market is so flooded with made in China budget knives that it's ridiculous right now. So all I would say to you is if you're watching this video, if you like this knife, yeah, don't hesitate. It's a good knife. But if you're just looking for a good budget knife, do some research. You can probably get like exactly what you want. Like whatever your dream knife is for under $50, it's probably out there because there are literally thousands and thousands and thousands of options that you have at this price point. So there you go, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. If you're going to pick this up or if you're going to pick anything up, go over to White Mountain Knives, talk to Justin. You can use my discount code SHARPSTUFF to save yourself 10% on this or any number of other things that are over there on the website. Again, thanks for taking the time to watch. I hope you enjoyed, and we will talk to you soon.